Negativity is your friend. I'm going to show you a few examples, 6 to be specific, on why you shouldn't try and resist negativity, but rather understand it. So, negativity serves a purpose in that it is here to break your addiction to your fantasies. And by integrating both sides, you now move more towards your whole, complete self. So, negativity is nothing more than actual feedback to help guide you back into balance, which is where you're authentic again. And all the emotions related to negativity are simply symptoms of this. That's it. So, when you actually feel them, they're more of an indication for you to become more aware, open up your eyes, and look to integrate two sides of a one sided story that you're running. Because at that point, you have missing information, which is what leads to chaos. That's the definition of chaos. But there is hidden order behind the chaos if you look to complete the picture and seek the information. So let's get into the examples. Number one, you're going to deal with negativity when you have unrealistic expectations of others to be one sided. So this is typical with when people end up meeting a new partner, they start to date them, and they have this fantasy in their head about how they expect that person to be. And usually you expect them to be perfect from all accounts. And especially on the first few dates, if the other person, if the partner doesn't do a good job at actually showing you more of who they are, which is normal because most people sometimes they don't accept these parts about themselves, or they hesitate. They have certain pressure from societal beliefs that they can't actually share all these things with someone at the beginning. So you're getting an incomplete picture of who they are. But typically, after a few weeks, months, you start to see the other side. You start to see that, yes, maybe they were confident, but sometimes also arrogant, for example. So once that illusion of their perfection is broken in your mind, that negativity finally starts to dissipate. So you were dealing or facing that negativity because you expected them to be one sided, not realizing that they have both sides, just like everybody does. Second example, you're going to face negativity when you have unrealistic expectations of others to live in your values and not theirs. So it's normal for us to, when we meet new people, typically the things we're going to talk about most and engage in are going to be the things we value because we find them important. But if you expect that everybody else is going to also live in your values and not theirs, you're going to deal with negativity because them not accepting what you find important is going to almost feel like a threat to your identity. And without realizing it, you might be trying to force these things on other people because you find them important, which is normal. But you need to recognize that people will always act and live in their own values and not yours. And once you realize this, there's no need to feel negativity when they do not accept your own values because you understand that they're just doing the same from their own perspectives. So, once again, negativity is your friend. Number three, you're going to face negativity when you have unrealistic expectations on yourself to be one sided. And this is typical nowadays where everybody thinks they need to always be motivated and disciplined and wake up and do the perfect morning routine and get everything done and never procrastinate. So you're expecting yourself to be one sided. Yes, you will be motivated sometimes, you'll be disciplined, you get things done, you follow through on things, but at the same time, you will equally have times where you're lazy, you procrastinate, you just don't want to do things, you don't want to be productive. Sometimes maybe you might end up being a bit mean. You might snap at people, get angry, be sad sometimes, right? The reality is you're never going to be one sided. Expecting it is chasing a fantasy. Once again, negativity is your friend. It lets you know that what you're expecting is not real. The nature of this physical reality is two sided. Remember that. The only reason why you understand what motivation is because you know that you've experienced what it is to be unmotivated. Both exist together, two sides of a magnet. You can't separate them. Number four, you're going to face negativity when you have unrealistic expectations on yourself to live in others' values. Once again, when you meet that partner that we talked about and you have this fantasy, this illusion of who they are, this perfect person, what ends up happening is because of how much you in your mind value them, you will also inherit their values. So by putting them up on a pedestal, you minimize yourself and you start to want to prove yourself to them and almost earn their respect because of how highly you view them. And what will happen is the things they find important, you will naturally inherit and think they should be important to you as well. So you're trying to live in someone else's values, which once again is not the full picture. Something is missing. Your authentic self has your own values. You're not supposed to live in somebody else's values. So negativity in here is your friend because you're trying to be somebody you're not, essentially. Number 5, you're going to face negativity when you set unrealistic expectations on the global society or the global collective to be one-sided. So an example here is the UN with their plan for world peace, which, yes, I understand sounds great, but once again, peace only exists because war does. And so expecting the whole world to be at peace is unrealistic. And this is where some people also trip up. Again, you're trying to chase a world where we're only one-sided. But even if you might not see war in one country, a lot of times it just moves to another one. So it transforms in its shape. We're talking about the energy behind war. Even if you don't have an actual physical war, you might have a financial war. So there's this global peace index that measures certain metrics over a long period of time, different types of war. And you notice that every single year, consistently for I'm not sure how many years, we've always had the same amount of war. It just transforms in its shape and form. And people just focus on one specific type, thinking that they can fully eliminate it. But at all periods of time, we always have this balance between peace and war, and it's all of these different shapes and forms. So expecting the entire world to eventually have global peace is an unrealistic expectation. And lastly, you're going to face negativity when you have an unrealistic expectation of the collective society to live in your own values. So, again, from the perspective of the UN, they have set their own rules and they expect the whole world to follow and abide them in order to get world peace, which is unrealistic. Or, in the same way that governments, countries decide that everybody within that country, just because you happen to be born on this piece of land, they expect you to follow their rules, their values, what they decide is important. Unrealistic expectation, you're going to face negativity. So, hopefully, you're starting to see the common pattern, which is that at any point in time, when you have an incomplete picture, which is when you have someone or something in a pit or on a pedestal, you resent or you infatuate, fantasize about something. You are not authentic because when someone is in a pit, you minimize them and you exaggerate yourself. But at the same time, you're too prideful to admit that what you see in them is within you. And when you put someone on a pedestal, you maximize them, minimize yourself, and you're too humble to admit that what you see in them is within you as well. So it's always a reflection, always feedback to show you something within yourself that you haven't accepted. And so when you only have one side of the picture and you're out of balance, you're not authentic. And so this negativity is going to, or sometimes positivity on the other end of things, right? In this case, we're looking at negativity, is going to serve a purpose to bring you back into balance. It's your intuition doing its job, sensing when you've shifted out of balance into a stressed state, survival state, where you have incomplete picture, which is chaos. And this negativity is then your friend. It's feedback to help bring you back into harmony, into your integrated self. So next time you sense, and this by the way, which not many people want to hear, depression and all of these diseases, these things that medicine has labeled as problems and they medicate you, these are all symptoms or as a result of this collective negativity. That's all this is. It's just feedback. It's a symptom of showing you when you're out of balance. It just needs to be corrected. And it's all a perspective shift. The whole reason why you were out of balance to begin with, why you felt the negativity, why you ended up with depression, was with a perspective shift to begin with. But it was an imbalanced ratio of perspectives where you focused on one side, incomplete picture. And so, if this was done internally from your own mind, then it's also corrected internally.